A medical cause. In April 2022, a girlfriend visits her dead boyfriend's apartment to collect his things, only to find blood smeared across the walls. But they were told he had died from a medical cause. So how come his residence resembled a crime scene? Shocked, the girl rushes out and crashes into the neighbor, who offers to show his doorbell footage. They both skim the recordings until they come across a clip from April 14th. 38-year-old Johnny Cashman Jr. is seen jogging up the stairs and going inside looking perfectly healthy. However, less than a minute later, the audio explodes with a man shouting from inside the apartment.
Dude, what the f***? What are you doing? Yo, what the f***, dude?
Suddenly, there's a loud banging and someone yelling "stop" over and over. The clip keeps rolling, and after about 8 minutes, another man walks out of the apartment, pulls his sleeve over his hand to wipe the doorknob, and heads downstairs. Moments after, a distant voice from inside screams, "Help, help, help," before everything goes silent. 5 days later, on April 19th, police arrive at Johnny's apartment for a welfare check, only to find blood mixed with fecal matter everywhere and him slumped on the floor, dead. But for some reason, they told the family he had a medical death, like a gastrointestinal bleed linked to alcohol and health problems. And what's stranger is that the medical examiner didn't even perform the full autopsy. He just wrote, "No trauma, nothing suspicious," on the report. Now, the family never suspected foul play, so they had him cremated without even seeing the scene of his death. But once those photos and the doorcam audio surfaced, Johnny's family launched petitions and interviews insisting this looks like assault. Police eventually tracked down the man from the footage, identified publicly as witness Stephen Church in Tennessee. He tells detectives he stayed with Johnny for a few days, that Johnny was drunk and they argued, but never fought. Prosecutors review the report and video, yet still rule there's not enough to prove an assault. In the end, no charges are ever filed, and no explanations are ever given to explain the copious amounts of blood. Knock, knock. At 3:30 a.m. on August 24, 2018, a doorbell camera in Sunrise Ranch near Montgomery, Texas, records a frantic barefoot woman in a long t-shirt. Restraints are dangling from both her wrists, hinting that she's been tied up. She constantly looks over her shoulder while pressing the bell as if expecting someone to step out of the dark. Then suddenly, the girl steps away from the frame. Inside, the homeowner is asleep and doesn't hear her calls for help. And by the time he reviews the footage later, the woman is already gone. They contact the sheriff's office suspecting something wrong, who then release a still image from the video, asking the public for help in identifying the distressed woman. However, despite the image going viral on social media and people searching, comparing her face to missing persons flyers, no one is able to trace her. Neighbors and deputies scour the entire neighborhood where she was last seen, yet days pass with no name and no clean resolution. When all hope seemed lost, authorities received a welfare check call about a man threatening suicide. When deputies reach his residence, they are shocked to find a 49-year-old man dead from a self-inflicted gunshot wound, and notes tying him directly to the woman in the video. Moreover, inside the bedroom, they find restraints, pretty similar to those dangling from her arms. Detectives eventually track her down through her relatives in Dallas and confirm she's a 32-year-old domestic violence victim who escaped after being bound and assaulted. The footage was from the night she ran, and after going to a couple of doors for help, the woman drove out of the neighborhood to her family. In the end, the tale is released to the public with the reassurance that she's alive, safe, and speaking with family out of the county. And if the abusive boyfriend was alive, he would have faced charges for kidnapping, unlawful restraint, and sexual assault. A family day. On April 18th, 2019, at 4:30 a.m. on an East London street, a man sprints past CCTV being chased by another in dark clothing who slams him to the pavement. Within seconds, a dark BMW pulls up, and the man is never seen again. 28-year-old Aaron Cato from Newham, just a few hours ago, had spent the day taking his son and niece bowling and to the park. Having a lovely family time, he informs his partner that he'll be late, so she could go to bed early. However, morning comes and Aaron still doesn't come home. His phone goes straight to voicemail and no one in the family has seen him. Unfortunately, authorities are notified, and when they come across his street CCTV footage, it becomes clear that Aaron was in danger. So, the investigation goes full swing to locate his whereabouts before it's too late. But weeks go by with no ransom calls, no bank activity, no hospital hits, and no sign of the dark BMW with registration RF1207A that took him. Having no leads, the authorities upgrade the case to a murder investigation by July 2019, even though there was still no body to prove it. Over time, 7 people are arrested on suspicion of kidnapping, but with no dots connecting them, they're all eventually released on bail. Despite a £10,000 reward for information, years have passed with no confession or clear witness. And to this date, Aaron was never found, and no one was ever charged. Stuffed in surf. On February 25th, 2014, a couple on Perranporth Beach spot something bobbing at the waterline. Upon looking closely, they realize it's a naked, dead body wearing only socks and one shoe. The corpse is identified as 64-year-old Alan Eric Geel, but stranger than his utter lack of clothes is that they found a sock and earphones stuffed deep into his mouth. And there were multiple injuries that don't match a simple drowning. Only yesterday, Geel was caught on CCTV withdrawing cash, carrying a rucksack and traveling north through Truro and Newquay before arriving in Perranporth around 10:25 p.m. But just 5 minutes later, he's seen walking through the town alone, the last time he's ever seen alive. Overnight, something happened. The police scanned the coastline in search of answers, and ultimately found some of his clothes and possessions scattered between beaches, including a rucksack and jacket, but key items like his phone are missing. With no more leads, detectives take the case to BBC Crime Watch, asking the public if anyone saw Geel with someone on his last night, but no solid witness ever comes forward. His 2018 inquest adds to the confusion. According to the pathologist, his spine was fractured. He had blunt force trauma to his head, and yet he also drowned. The pathologist couldn't figure out how one person could suffer all three unless someone else was involved. Later, with every lead grown cold, coroner Emma Carleone finally records an open verdict, officially classifying Geel's death as unexplained. Boko Haram. In 2018, 2 women with their kids were marched a few steps off the track in northern Cameroon. A shaky phone camera keeps rolling while someone accuses them of being part of a jihadist group, Boko Haram. They are blindfolded, lined up by some rocks, and made to kneel in the dust. In the next second, soldiers raise their rifles and shots ring out in bursts. The clip ends after soldiers make sure they're dead and leave. The moment it hits social media, people rage over the cruelty and demand answers. However, Cameroon's government quickly calls it fake news, insisting the uniforms, boots, and weapons don't match their army and that the terrain isn't even in the country. But sleuths and human rights analysts weren't giving up, so they tore the footage apart frame by frame. The Galil rifle one soldier carries, the specific tiger stripe and woodland camo mix, even the nicknames Cobra and Chocho shouted on camera, all details linked to real Cameroonian units fighting Boko Haram in the far north. From there, things reveal a problem much bigger than the footage. BBC Africa Eye and other investigators match the ridgeline and fields in the background to satellite images, pinpointing the site near Zelavet in Cameroon's far north and dating the killings to around 2015. Turns out, the government had been lying about the murder of its own people. Eventually, international pressure forces the arrest of 7 soldiers who are convicted of murder in a closed military court in Yaoundé. 5 of them received several years behind bars, while 2 got acquitted, making it a rare case where a clip dragged an army unit into court and got them served.